Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Tamara Bucky, and this is the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. With me today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Miss Bobby Sutton. She's a comedian from Alabama, and she has a lot of accolades behind her. She just sold her comedy TV show called Live with Bobby and Joyce to Demi TV with 6.1 million viewers. She was a finalist in Kenan Thompson's SNL audition. She's performed in Atlanta Underground Comedy and Music Festival, and she was the host and co-producer for Stardome Open Mic. You might have seen her performing comedy, or you may have even seen her face on a billboard on I-285 recently in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Bobby. How are you today?
I'm above average, Tim. How you doing?
Above average. That's a nice way. That could be 51%. It could be 50,
Yes,
52. It could be 99.
83.6% above average.
Okay, that sounds like a nice average and a nice day. That sounds like a nice
Yeah,
temp. It's so
perfect.
good to have you, man. You have gone through so much in your life since I've known you, which has been about a decade, I think. And even just hearing some of the stories of what you've gone through since I've known you, but then getting to know you a little bit more about your childhood and some of the challenges you faced, you are quite the inspiration. And that's why I
Oh,
wanted to have you on because you have an amazing story or a series of stories. It's definitely more than one story, all fascinating, that shows the triumph of people that want to overcome and keep working hard and keep a positive outlook. So let's just dive into it. Let's tell the
sure.
viewers some of the challenges you've overcome starting when you were young.
Oh, well, I'm a little bit older than most comedians in the business. I'm 56. I was born in 69. Uh, in those days, there was still a lot of superstition around what you were born under, things like being left-handed. I'm left-handed. I have a
Me too.
best friend who was, she was like left-handed, and her mother tied her hand to her body to force her to be right-handed because she was so afraid she would go the way of the devil. And people thought that left-handed people back in those days were of the devil, like that the devil sent them to earth. And my father's best friend was the preacher of the not only the church but the school I had to go to for 18 years. And I was born on Halloween at 1:31 p.m. It was a waning crescent moon. It was a very full one, but he thinks I was born under a full moon on Halloween at 1:31. He's like, that's too many ones and threes and ones. You don't understand numbers, Bob. Talking to my dad. And he felt that then I'm left-handed, and he thought that I was born under every sign of the devil and I was sent to destroy his church and my parents, and actually encouraged my death and said, all you have to do is not feed her. All she has to do is get a little too cold. It's just, but we have to protect your family from her, which is, it's so ironic because I'm an ordained minister now.
Oh no.
Who know me know that I have a close walk with the higher power, the creator, who most American Christian sects would call God. Others, I do, I will go into later. I have died a couple of times, and in one of those experiences that was never called God, or it was just the angel just kept calling it the creator. And I say it because it wasn't a man or a woman. There's no sex up in heaven. That's what we need to be here to keep this world populated. So, these are our spacesuits to walk around Earth.
Our meat
And
suits.
yeah, our little meat suits. That's exactly, so we're all men in blackers, and we're all driving a little people suit around. But, I was fortunate enough just right off of birth to have my mama, Callie Williams. She was a charge nurse, an OBGYN charge nurse of all things. And she had recently been laid off in the early 70s with the economy being what it was. And she had signed on to be my parents' maid for a little while until she got her job back. And there was one morning when my mother almost froze me to death. And she said she just got this feeling. It woke her up and she had to come to the house. And she found me, and she literally saved my life. And she just kind of took me to hers that day. She never even went back to that amazing job. She remained my parents' maid to protect us kids.
Wow.
And oh my gosh, at a quarter of the salary that she was making, she was the charge nurse. I mean, she was the doctor of nurses. And the fact that, with 5 kids of her own, and the fact that, she just kind of pulled us all together and raised us as one big integrated family of children. And I will, no, that's my brother, that's my sister, my brother Danny. Our big joke is I'm born on Halloween. He's born on leap year, like the 29th, but we were born the same year. So we tell everybody we're twins. And people look at us real funny because he's black and I'm white. And it's like, it's the eyes. You see that? Look, it's the eyes. We the same, but it grew my family. It gave me a mother figure. I really do attribute all of my amazing mother skills to my mama Callie, because she was a phenomenal mom. She didn't have to spank you because you were so afraid, or me, I was so afraid of losing her respect. If that makes any sense, to lose her respect, to lose her attention was crushing to me. And maybe it was because I was so unwanted that abandonment issues, you find somebody who loves you and wants you. The fear of losing that pure love is terrifying. So I never got out of bounds. I never really was a bad kid, because all she'd have to say, the phrase would kill me, is I ain't studying you. If Mama Callie's like, I don't want to talk to you, I ain't studying you. I'd go in my room and rock and pray, just please God, let her study me. I'm just so afraid that she wouldn't study me. But it just means I'm not paying you any attention. And it would kill me, but she's never had to raise a hand. In a day where if you weren't taking your child to the Sears bathroom to wear them out if they got out of hand in public, you weren't a good parent. Like how the world has changed, that if you weren't disciplining your children in public, DHR would come and take your kids.
Well, discipline matters. Kids need discipline, but violent discipline, studies show that it doesn't really work. And if anything, it creates resentment and trauma and psychological pain and all of these things. And
more violence.
I say that as somebody who did get my ass beat, like with a belt, with a switch. I had to go get out of the yard on the side of the 405. You ever see cars going by on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles during bumper to bumper rush hour traffic, and you are hands on the bumper getting your ass whooped? I have. Yeah. And I deserved it too. I know I deserved it. I'm not complaining per se. Like, I'm mortified and it is trauma, but I totally deserved it.
Well, and that was like my birth parents. Now, my birth parents did spank us. I will have to say my father was an extremely fair disciplinarian. He never gave more than 3 licks. I only saw him give 3 licks once in my life, and it was because the kids were on a rooftop that was 3 stories above the ground, running from end to end. He wanted them so afraid to ever step foot on that roof again. And I've even had doctors tell me with my own kids, I'd rather have a child have a popped hand, be afraid of having a popped hand, than having to graft skin on that toddler's hand because you thought you could explain the concept of heat to a 2-year-old. He says sometimes a popped hand, a fear of a popped hand, is better than trying to explain reasoning and gray matter to a 2-year-old. They just can't understand it.
Yeah.
My mother was overly abusive. My father did come in one night and catch her. And he had a brass belt buckle that was, I mean, literally a good 6-8 inches thick. It was by 4 or 5 inches thick. It had the Christian fish on it and had Jesus in Judaism, in Hebrew, written across it. And it had come from Israel. It was a souvenir. And mom would make you lay on your back, put your hands above your head, and she'd hit you across the stomach with the belt buckle. And if you moved your hands, then you'd get more licks. And I'll never forget the night that my father came in and just kind of snatched it from her. He said, "You'll never touch the kids again. You're never allowed to touch my kids again." And I think it was because he was raised in abuse. And that was just his rule, was nobody abuses my kids. Now,
Ooh.
When it did come time to spank us, we pretty much only ever got one lick, but we deserved it. It was something that we had done wrong. If we had made him really mad, he would say, "Go to your room. You're going to get a spanking. I'm too angry to spank you right now.
Ooh.
I need to calm down." And that, of course, you get to put the fear up. He comes in, he gives you the spank. He would let you have 5-10 minutes to make hope he gets hit by a car in traffic. And then he would come back in and he would sit down and say, "Do you understand why I had to do this?" And then he would explain it, and then he would hug you, and he'd let you pick a game or pick something special, and he would make a real point to just spend a lot of one-on-one time with you after, and make you feel that I did this because I had to give you a boundary, not because I don't love you. I love you so much. It's why I had to give you the boundary. He always tried to overcompensate for having to punish, to let us know how loved we were. And my kids were, I will have to say, they were 98% raised on timeouts. It worked on them mostly, but there was that 1-2 times a year where there was just a spank that had to happen.
Yeah.
But I did the same exact thing because the spankings were so rare. I needed them to know how loved they are, how precious they are. It was very important to me. And I am thankful to my father for that. And I think Callie taught me that there's other avenues, and I think that went into my parenting too, was that it doesn't always have to be a spanking.
Yeah.
It could be other things. And I'm a firm believer that once they've hit 10, maybe 12, don't spank them. At that point, you're hitting an older, blossoming teenager. It's not going to have the same effect. If you want to punish a teenager, just take their charger and HDMI cords away from them, and they will be jumping up and down on the bed screaming, "I'm calling the police. This is abuse."
They will.
To which I said, "Please do it. They've had a hard night. They need a good laugh." But seriously, that is the best way to punish a teenager, is you find out what is most precious to them and you take that away, because it's like my dad. When I got to be a teenager, he was just like, "No, there's no hitting you." And that they're spanking. No, he was like, for us, it was our car. You know, if you were 1 minute late walking into that door, he was in the chair with his hand out. And you just knew you had to give him the keys, and you were going to be driving the 73 Vista Cruiser station wagon with the big leaky windows for the next week. That you didn't get your car. He didn't discuss it. He was just like, you knew what the deal was. We're not even going to discuss it. He wouldn't get into a fight. He would just take what was precious. And then there was groundings. And he worked his way through dental school as a deputy sheriff. So, he was like, "Well, if you're grounded for like a week or two," he's like, "It's my job to keep you out of jail as an adult." And he was like, "If I take something away from you, a privilege, well, that's probation. I took your license. You won't be able to drive for a while. Your license is gone." He's like, "If I ground you for a week or two, well, I put you in jail. You're going to be there." It's like, if you do something major and I ground you for 3 to 4 or 5 months, well, you in prison. And he was like, "And you'll be subtracted from society for larger blocks of window by what you choose to be. How stupid do you choose to act is how long you'll be removed from society." He said, "But I'd rather have you in pretend prison in the house than real prison in real life, because I couldn't put the boundaries around you that you needed." And when he explained it that way to like somebody who's autistic and ADD, and it was like, "Oh, rules. I get it now. Rules. That makes sense." And I explained it to my kids the exact same way growing up. It's jail, it's prison, it's probation. It's so much easier than to be doing it, because nowadays you've got so many children that it's just the first thing they want. It's like, don't hit your kids, don't punish your kids, don't put a boundary around your kids. But the school is going to take the littlest thing they do and arrest them and put them in juvie and start working up their records and getting them ready to be professional prisoners. And I almost wonder sometimes if it's designed to fail the child, taking away all discipline. Is it designed to fail the child so that these prisoners can fulfill these, contracts and stuff? But
There is some evidence to support that claim, and what's unfortunate is these kids are not getting disciplined. Not all of the kids. I do know some friends with really good kids that are disciplined, that are, most of them are like military,
Yeah.
um, but a lot of kids, instead of a parent, they want to be a friend. And
Friend.
you're setting your kid up for failure when you try to be their friend, because a kid's friend is going to get into the same kind of shenanigans. They're not going to have the health and the greater good. And, I'm so grateful to my parents for teaching me my values and, boundaries. And even though I was bad, I'm going to be honest with you. I had detention. I had Saturday school. I got suspended for fighting. Like, I was crazy. And it was because I was
So Breakfast
bipolar.
Club really spoke to you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I was bipolar, ADHD, both of these undiagnosed at that point. Also, I had been moved around a lot. I had PTSD. I had a tumultuous environment at home, and I lashed out as a result. And I got bullied, and then I also became a bully.
Yeah.
And I shoved a kid in the locker. I still think about it to this day. I feel really bad for him, and I
Him.
don't remember his name. Like, I remembered the incident, and I was horrible in middle school, especially, and then like into high school. But I eventually got it together and realized this is not the life I want to live. Um, and there's a lot more to that than what I just said. But
Oh yeah.
I decided this is not who I want to be. And that's what everybody can do, is regardless of how you used to be and the bad behaviors you've had in the past and the bad examples you had set by your family or whatever, your peers, you can choose at any given moment what kind of person you want to be. And so I
Absolutely.
started when I hit 18, and I realized, like, oh, jail's a thing now. So let me straighten up, because I don't want to end up there, right? And I've been trying to get my act together ever since, inch by inch.
I'm totally with you on that. It was a weird childhood. There was, and what do you call it? Disclosure. There will be sensitive material coming up.
Trigger
Hero
warning,
discretion
trigger warning.
5. Yeah, yeah, hero discretion. I have been to much therapy, very much healed, so I can discuss this openly. There was a violent molestation at 5. There was a brutal rape at 13, so brutal it took 26 surgeries to put me back together just to be able to have children. And I still wound up having to have a complete total hysterectomy at 28.
Mm.
So, just like you, I was furious. By the time I hit 13, that's when I was raped. Something ripped. I physically heard a rip, Tamara. Like, I
Your
don't know where
consciousness, like,
yeah, there was a rip. And from age 13 to 24, the moment I gave birth to my son, and I was on an epi, but it was just enough to feel his, almost just like sliding fingers across your skin. I felt his body come into the world through me.
huh,
That was the first day I cried from the day I was raped. I could not cry
wow.
until the day I gave birth to my son. But he taught me in that moment of birth that you can have tears for happiness. I never knew that until that moment. And so now I celebrate all the happy tears. And, you may see me just know, oh, no, she's happy. If she's crying, she's happy. And, because for so many years, I had the only true sister that really connected with me. She was murdered by a drug addict. And I remember being at her funeral with this pounding headache because I wanted to cry so badly. Like, I could feel I needed to purge her. I needed to cry, and my body would not physically allow the tears to come out. And I actually felt what psychiatrists are talking about, where if you hold it inside, it starts just kind of try to force its way out of you. And her trial started the very moment, the literal moment to the minute my son was born.
What?
Her murder trial started. Yeah.
Wow.
And this was in the days in the early 90s where they were sending you home within 24 hours of giving birth. So 17 hours after giving birth, I'm home. And my husband was like, let me go get some more formula. And do you need this and that? And he ran to the grocery store, and I'm just holding my newborn, and I'm just all, because I wasn't supposed to be able to have this child. And I went through 700 hoops of flames to be able to have him. And he's my miracle baby. And I'm so happy. And I turn on the TV, and it is the news, and it is all of the evidence of my sister's murder. It's the tarp she was in, it's the shovel. It's like her jury, and it's all laid out there, and they're showing in court. And in that moment, I held my little angel, and I purged my sorrow for my sister.
Mm.
And I was able to, and I feel like it was her spirit. You'd have to know my sister. She probably went in and was like, hey, God, look, she can't be at this trial. I don't want her seeing none of this. You're going to have to give her a reason that she cannot be there. I mean, just a stone cold, let him come early. And Aaron he was like a month and a half early, but they were all flabbergasted because he was fully formed, fully weighted, like fully healthy and able to go home. So they were like, maybe we got the wrong birth month on this one, but it was just, they were like, this is a massive miracle how this child is so fully developed and can go home. And it's like, or was it my sister working from heaven saying, you know what, you just need to be dealing with all this joy right now. Nothing can be done about this. He's going to get what's coming to him, and you don't have to be here for any of it. My father was there, and he was there for every single day of it, and he would report back to me, but there was just no way I could bring this newborn baby into court. And I always felt like it was kind of her saying, look, do me a solid. Don't let her anywhere near that building, because he wasn't supposed to be born for another month and a half. And I totally would have been there. I absolutely would have been in that room.
Who wouldn't have been? Yeah.
I still go. Just last February, we got another 5 years on him, so he's in for another 5 years, and I will keep going to the day I die, because to me, I felt very orphaned when she passed. She was like the only family member that, she was 17 years older than me. She was kind of like my sister, my mother, my best friend. She gave me some of the best advice being a teenager growing up. She never judged me. She was just always there for me, and I think that is, and again, also losing her, super angry. And I'm starting to realize about the age of 18, as you say, 18, 19, it's like, I can't keep a single relationship in my life. I can't keep a friendship. I mean, I know you're not supposed to keep a boyfriend at those ages, but why does it have to be so much drama while I've got him? And, and then my mama Callie said, baby, I love you with all of my heart, but I just got to lay some truth on you, honey. She said, you're so angry, and you can be as angry as you want to be. But being angry, she's like, it makes you do things like hide in addictions, hide in drugs, hide in alcohol. And that's your free choice. And you can do it. And it may work temporarily. She said, but it is like putting butter on your hands and feet as you try to climb the ladder of your life. You're going to get up one rung, you're going to slide down three. She said, now, Angel, I love you, but you are so angry. You're either going to wind up in the jail or in the ground, and I worry for you. And honey, if it was just you and one other person, maybe two other people in all of your life that's having trouble, okay, maybe it's them. But if it's you and every single person in your life, Angel doll, you're the problem. And you've got to go work on your anger, and you need to go get a psychiatrist. Now, my birth family wouldn't allow one. Said that, because in the 80s, if you went to a psychiatrist, you could lose your job. You could lose your standing. You were considered, oh, everybody goes to psychiatrist, automatically gets the shock treatments, and one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And can't be near them. Don't let them near your kids. There was a big stigma on mental health in the 70s.
There
80s,
still is today, sadly.
Yeah, I feel it's becoming, I think maybe it is all the ADHD and PTSD, but I'm starting to see it's not as bad. You can say, hey, I've got to go to therapy and not lose your job.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And my parents had such a standing. My birth parents were well off. They were connected governmentally. They were, they were connected with their media. the impressions meant a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always, she can't go. Even teachers would say she needs to see a psychiatrist. She's really struggling through something, and we can't really put a pinpoint on it. No, she's not. No, Sutton will go to a psychiatrist. When I went, my birth parents just disowned me. That was the last straw. That was it. You're gone. You're gone. Best decision of my life. Absolute best decision of my life. And I never went to therapy about, she got more Christmas presents and he got a pony and I didn't, and nobody loved me. And I didn't deal with that. What I wanted to, I treated it, and maybe it's the autism. I wanted to study me.
Yeah.
Why do I keep picking the same wrong person to be with? Why do I keep picking the same guy who abuses me all the time? Why do I keep blowing up these amazing friendships? And I learned cognitive therapy. I could not say more for cognitive therapy. It's where you take an honest look at yourself and you try to go all the way back to, when was the first time that I can physically just probably remember ever employing this behavior, or what was happening to me at that time. And it helps you pinpoint where the file went bad and the trauma, what trauma happened that made you start taking on this wrong behavior because you thought it would protect you.
Yep.
When the truth of the matter is, it's just blowing you up over and over again. When you can recognize it, and then you're honest enough, as my therapist will always say, I love it, he said, to take the advice, walk to the edge of the cliff, use the advice as your parachute, and jump and trust that the parachute will open. He said, do you know how hard it is for people to open the parachute? Yeah. He's like, when you've been stuck in dysfunction for as many years as you have, opening the parachute is the most terrifying. Applying a new response to the old action is terrifying. It used to hurt me that my family would call, my whole family, you're crazy. She's in therapy. She's crazy. And I was like, I'm the sanest one of all of you. It would just drive me insane.
Well, crazy is subjective. It's subjective.
That's what my therapist, it was an epiphany. He said, well, Robin, when you live completely down in the bottom, in the center of dysfunction, and everything about your life is dysfunction, then dysfunction is normal. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely sane. This is your sanity. It is your normal. So if somebody wants to step outside of that dysfunction and try to go a different route, well, that's just insane behavior. Why would you step out of what works? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, just because it works for the narcissistic sociopath doesn't mean it's working for everyone they control. And when that person escapes control, the narcissistic sociopath is going to try to call you crazy. They're going to gaslight you. They're going to say you're a problem, that you're weak. They're going to try. The more, if you are putting yourself on a good path in life, and you got people in your life telling you these things, gaslighting you, oh, you're just feeling sorry for yourself, you need to suck it up and get over it, you don't need to be doing this is just stupid, well, you're insane. They're scared of losing their control over you. They are admitting to you that they are losing their abusive control, and they're trying to keep the boundaries the same. Move the boundaries. Just keep moving the boundaries, and know that, you know what? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing something right. My abuser is scared.
Well, boundaries are hard to enforce, even with strangers, but it's very difficult to put new boundaries up on an existing relationship. It can be done, but it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of patience, because you already have an established way that you talk to each other and interact with each other, and so on. And if you don't accept that anymore, and you like, okay, I'm not going to allow you to talk to me this way, or I'm not going to allow you to basically make things up or question, fill in the blank with any bad behavior. Like, I have a friend whose husband is constantly like going through her phone and demanding that she give it and she does. She's like, here, take my phone, go ahead, look at it. I could not imagine living that way. Andrew and I both have passwords on our phone. I actually don't know his password. I think he does know mine, because there's been a few times I've handed it to him and said, hey, can you unlock it? I have no qualms about that, because I have no reason to distrust him. So the idea that not only would I not trust my partner, but also demand to violate them by going through their personal things, and then he never finds anything.
Yeah.
The friend's husband, he never finds anything, but then he accuses her of like, well, you probably deleted the messages already, or you've got people stored under code names. Like, who's this Amanda? I don't know who Amanda is. The level of insanity that people will
That's
deal with.
sad.
And she's staying with him. She's faithful. They have children. She wants to have, everybody wants to have a whole family. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people want to have a family with a mom and a dad and a kid, and they're willing to hold on even when um it's very ugly and dangerous and very unhealthy.
Which is good for the kids.
It's worse for the kids. Yeah. And I've tried to have that conversation. And I think one day she'll get there. She's had some kind of eye opening experiences, but the abuse that we as humans allow ourselves to go through because we love somebody, it's really sad because what to me that looks like it's that
Don't love ourselves enough.
that's exactly, yes, we're not loving ourselves enough. And so we're going to accept abuse in place of love.
Yes. And it's not even necessarily your fault. It could have been, it's like when I first started going to therapy, my therapist said that in concentration camps and prisoner of war camps, you can have in a matter of months, you can have somebody brainwash a grown man who is a soldier, a tough trained person, to totally change their values, change their outlook, say what you tell them to say, believe what they, with enough torture, with enough lies, with enough gaslighting. And he said, now, if you could do that to a full grown man, how much easier you think it is to get a child to believe any lie you want them to believe, including that that child is not valuable, that child is unwanted, that child is not worthy of love. He said, all of that is lies.
Yeah.
You deserve all those things, not because you're special, but because you're a human being. And all human beings deserve kindness, nurturing, love. You've just got to go
Dignity,
find
respect. Yeah.
yeah, you got to go find your tribe. Your family is not necessarily your blood. And I learned that
100%.
very early in life. My family is, when my birth mother died, it was like, oh, that's sad. Like Janet on the fourth floor, who we eat lunch with, died. Oh, really? There was no emotional investment,
Mm.
so there wasn't that much of a withdrawal. When my mama Callie died, I came apart at 17 different seams. I understood having a mom-shaped hole in my heart when I lost Mama Callie, losing my birth mom. And it really was a matter of investment, emotional investment
Yeah.
versus emotional withdrawal. And that is something that I did learn in therapy, is that you don't owe emotional withdrawal to people who are not making emotional investment. No bank would give people not investing money. They'd go broke. Well, if you're giving out emotional withdrawal to somebody who's not investing, you're going to go broke. You're going
You're
to
going
burn out. And
bankrupt.
then
You're in the negative, like literally.
emotionally bankrupt. And
Yeah.
then, like what you were talking about, you and your boyfriend and the way you connect. I've been married for September 24th. It'll be 30 years. And in the beginning, we didn't talk so good.
For
You know,
sure.
there were stuff, but my therapist taught me how to talk in a way that not only helped me really grow communication with my husband, but it helped me grow communication in business, in life, with friends.
Yep.
And it's basically, let's say he's upset and he's snapping off at you. And he said, well, first off, you want to start with validation, because every human being on this earth needs to be validated. So you start by validating the partner or the person that you need to set this boundary with. And make it validating. Like, yeah, I know what you're going through, but just, really try to state, honey, I totally understand that your boss is a jagoff and he has abused you in this situation. You did not deserve the way that he treated you. He did low down, and I wish death upon it. However,
Far.
I'm your biggest cheerleader. I love you more than anything. I'm the one you can come home to, and I'll rub your head and your little shoulders, and I'm going to hug you and tell you it's okay. And I just cannot allow you to give the disrespect to your biggest cheerleader that you will not even give to the person who's abusing you. If you're not going to disrespect the person who's abusing you, please, I cannot allow you to disrespect me. I love you more than anybody. And now sometimes he's so mad he needs to get up and leave. Let him.
Yes.
Let
Let them.
him.
They need to breathe and think.
That's not anything
Yeah.
personal. He just feels bad in the moment that, oh, I've had this light shown on me, or she, that I did treat you kind of yucky in this situation where I'm feeling and you didn't deserve it. And I'm a little ashamed. So I need to walk away a little bit. They're going to come back. He always comes back, says, it was wrong. I'm sorry. But sometimes you're not coming eye to eye, and you need to stop and reset. Or stop and make an appointment. Those are two, it's the same thing, which is we're going to stop talking about this right now. If we have to go our separate ways for a little few minutes or whatever, let's do it. But we're going to pick a day, 2-3 days in the future, where we have really come down from all of this, and we're going to start a discussion again.
That's
We're
brave.
not. It is very brave, but it is
Schedule your fights. Like that takes a lot of
training.
A lot of bravery
And training. It's not because there's also times, because there's always that one partner that tries to wiggle out of that 3 days.
I would be that one.
Because they're so terrified of the conflict. And I remember when my husband and I very first got married, and there was something like that, I need you to be a little more attentive, and I need this and I need that. And then I said, now what do you need from me? And he just kind of sat there. I was like, honey, what do you need from me? And he looked at me so confused because of the family he was raised in. And he went, oh, wait, I get to say too? And he was just genuinely shocked. Like, I get to say that I have needs, and you're going to fulfill them?
Or at least put them on the table. So maybe, without even discussing, maybe you can't fulfill them, but at least you would be open to look, can I fulfill them? If not, maybe there's another way we can, depending on what it is. But if you don't even acknowledge, but men are doing better now, I think, about actually acknowledging their needs, including their emotional needs. At least
I think a little more allowed to.
Yeah, some people. There are still some diehard that's like, oh, men aren't allowed to have feelings, those diehard types. But Andrew is very involved. Say what?
Suck it up, buttercup.
Exactly. But Andrew is very evolved, and we don't schedule fights, but we do all right, we need to talk about this later because clearly, emotions are high and I can tell you're irritated. And I tend to be a little bit more direct about things. And if I see him, like he comes home from work and he's maybe just irritated, you can tell he's irritated, and maybe even he's like verbally dumping on me when he gets home, because that happens sometimes. And I do it too. Don't worry. It goes both ways.
Oh, yeah, you do it with who you're most comfortable with, who you
but
feel
you go
safe.
through, you just had a negative experience or whatever, and I'm going to dump that negativity onto the people that are around me, maybe a stranger, maybe your loved one. And I'll be like, hey, I can tell you're upset and you've had a bad day. I'm sorry. I don't have the mental capacity right now to hear this. I'm sorry, but I can't for whatever reason. And maybe that might be selfish of me, and I have been accused.
No, that's a rational selfishness. That is a psychological term. It's called rational selfishness. You are taking an act that is rational, because this fight right now, you can't mentally absorb it. So you're not going to be of any help to him or yourself. It could possibly even make the whole situation so much worse. So you are taking an action for rational reasons. The rational selfishness is a person who truly loves you and honors you and understands why you need to do this would say, that's a rational idea. Let's come back around to this. A person who is selfish and abusing you is going to say, well, that's a selfish thing. I really needed to have this out right now. And you're just going to walk away like that. And you're not going to let me, and suddenly there's just as well. It helps
Yeah.
you actually separate the wheat from the chaff
Mm.
in your relationships. Like, it'll tell you when you make a decision like that with irrational selfishness, it tells you right away the people who are truly your friends, lovers in your corner, and the people who are using you for whatever it is they're getting out of your relationship. It could be any number of things, but they're going to call it selfish
Mm.
because it's inconvenient for them.
Yeah.
And how dare you be inconvenient for me?
And I've done it
Narcissists are
too. I've been that person on the other side because I talk a lot and I have a lot of feelings and I tend to process out loud. I don't know if you do
yeah.
that too, but like
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to think inside my head. And that is a challenge for Andrew. He's very logical. He normally sits there in silence and thinks a lot before he opens his mouth and talks, unless he's been drinking.
We
But
just need to get our men together and go bowling because
right.
we got the same exact guy and we're the same exact girl.
As
And
long
yeah,
as we don't, I don't have to bowl because I have like a weak wrist. Like, I'll
yeah,
hang
I can't.
out.
I know it. Like, I'm really bad at bowling. I always rip the nail off into the quick, and it's just like, do I have a nail? Yeah, okay, maybe we should go bowling. I need to
But
cut my
Andrew
nails, but
loves bowling, so I'm sure we could make that happen, and the boys can bowl, and we'll be their cheerleaders, and because
that's what it is. Yeah, we'll even get little pom poms. We'll go to like the
yeah,
Dollar Tree, and
we don't have to bowl to hang out at the bowling alley, but
no, there's so much to do at the bowling alley now.
right,
There's a bowling alley in Trustful, Alabama, and I used to do. It was one of my most favorite places to do comedy. They had a private party room. It was the big
mm,
bowling alley, and then you had the private room with the 5 alleys, a stage. The stage was the bowling alley. Like, we had the alleys behind us. They made the best smoked salmon
mm,
in like 20 miles. It was insane. It's like, well, you got to go to the bowling alley to get the good salmon.
that's
And I
wild.
mean, they had really good food in that party room. Yeah, I mean, it was real. Like, he was a chef, like a culinary trained chef. And I loved doing comedy in that bowling alley, and none of us bowled a lick. I mean, but we had a really great time. And then they come with the game rooms now, and the beer, and the
That's because we have an
beer.
ADD culture, and I'm glad because I'm ADD, so I'm glad people are
Yeah.
catching up to me and the way my brain works. Constantly have to
You're
have new
finally making me happy.
stimulation.
Yeah, it's like I'm over here playing video games. Oh, it's my turn to bowl. Okay, room. I'm
Right.
going back over here.
I'm
That's
curious,
me.
as somebody who's also neurodivergent, how many drinks do you have in your vicinity right now?
Just my tea.
Oh, wow, you've only got the one. I have
Oh
one.
wait, well, this is my husband's, but
I have
like, I can't drink soda. You have how many?
I have 3.
This is why the big jar, because I got tired of carrying around the 3 and 4 little ones. So I totally am with you. But this makes people think I have a problem. It's tea. There's a bag in there. But they're like, oh, that poor woman, she can't get it together. I'm like, hell no, I can't.
Well, I have to have variety because I may want water, I may want tea, I may want coffee. And so I need all 3 of these right here. Um,
There you go.
but anyway, totally got sidetracked there, but it's always fun.
That's
Jumping back to the
ADD.
relationship thing. The relationship thing is so important, the communication, because me and Andrew we're about to hit 10 years and we didn't know how to communicate well. We're both good communicators, but communication is two-way. You have to
Yes.
receive the message and understand it to be able to
Yeah.
implement that information in your life. If you say something to me and I don't understand it and I don't digest it, you might as well have not said anything at all.
Right.
And
Agreed.
we have worked very hard, and now we're at the point where we can be very honest and open. If the other person has an attitude or if the other person says something that's disrespectful, we both call each other out like, hey, that was actually pretty rude. Are you trying to hurt my
Mm-hmm.
feelings with that statement? And we're Andrew is not a comedian, but he is very funny. And so sometimes he'll be like cutting up with the boys or at work or whatever. And he gets in this mindset of like roasting each other. And then he'll come home and he'll think that he's going to do that to me. And it's like,
Roast you.
buddy, you are not roasting me. I'm not in the mood for it. Otherwise I'm going to hurt your feelings, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you love someone, you'll believe them when they say, "Hey, that was rude," and
And
respect
you'll
them enough
adapt.
to not say it again or like change the way you talk to them.
Exactly. You'll adapt to what they need.
Yeah.
And in return, they should be adapting to what you need.
Yeah.
And, and if they are refusing to adapt to what you need, or worse, making you feel guilty for expressing what you need, then you need to be like questioning, is this a healthy relationship that
Yeah.
I'm in? And am I in this relationship as two completely fulfilled people fulfilling one another? Or am I with somebody because I don't want to be alone?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. And because I don't fit, because people in my life have convinced me that I don't have value if I'm alone in
Mm.
life somehow, which is just crap. You don't have to have. My husband was not the first person to ask me to marry him. He was the first person I said yes to. And I had my time where there were years where no, I'm not dating anyone. I just want to be me. My senior year in high school, no, I am not going to have a boyfriend. I don't want to date anybody. I went on dates. I had a great time. I just wanted to be me. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted when I wanted without having to fight about it. I didn't want to have the breakup at the end of the year that I saw so many seniors have. He's going to his college, I'm going to my college. We're going to love each other long distance, and just I didn't want to go through any of that. But those were great years because they taught me that I don't have to settle for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose somebody, and I can still. Now it was a different economy and all, and I will say though, I was working 3 jobs because I needed to be out of my birth parents' house. It wasn't like I can't stand it here. It was, one of us is
Mm.
going to die. I've got to go. It
You got to know
literally,
your
like,
limits.
yeah, it's either she's my birth mom's going to kill me, or I'm going to wind up killing her in self-defense. One of us is going to die. One of
Mm.
us is going to jail. I've got to go. And so it was, for me, it was a matter of survival. And I think that's part of living on your own, is how badly do you really want it? Because I was
Mm-hmm.
working 3 jobs and going to school to be able to do that. Worth it? Was I
Yeah.
exhausted? Yes. Was I happy? Yes. And, but it also taught me, I think the most important lesson of my life was that you can get it on your own. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to settle. And I think my mother, one of the problems she had with me was that she and her mother didn't have a great relationship. And she got out of that house by getting herself pregnant
Mm.
to an abusive man. Then she got out of that relationship by getting herself pregnant with my father. So, she kind of used pregnancy and marriage to get to where she wanted. And I think that, which was in the 50s, that was kind of that was her way to get there. You could be what, a secretary,
Mm.
or, you could be in the secretary pool, or there weren't too many jobs for women out there in the 50s and 60s. And she applied to be my dad's receptionist. And that's how they met, through a paper ad in the paper. And but she saw dad as being the much better life. Dad's going to be the dentist. Dad's going to have the practice. Dad's going to have the money. So I don't want to be with this man who's abusing me. And now he was from a major NASCAR racing family. Like he was NASCAR racing royalty. And I honestly don't even know how abusive this man really was. My mother was a pathological liar. She could have said anything she needed to say, because I never saw him lay a hand on my sister. She was daddy's little girl. He was always a gentle guy that I could see, but I don't know their
Yeah.
life, but she did what she had to do, and, or she felt. And then she sees me, somebody that she almost, I think it was because my whole life, always like, you look just like your mother. You're just like your mother. You look, and I hated that because I had
Oh.
such a respect for her that I felt like I was ugly. And I've got real bad body dysmorphia and I don't find myself attractive. And it was always because, well, you're just like her, you look just like her. And that terrifies me because no, anybody but her. I try so hard to be anybody but her, and
Well, it's our
it was
actions, not the way we look, that define us.
exactly. And that's what it is. I'm confusing the actions with the looks, if that makes any sense. She's a whole
Well, our
package.
lizard brain always is going to go to these, not very effective ways of just taking in information and then making a split decision to try to save us pain. Like that's the
Yeah.
brain works. It's trying to save us from being hurt. So if you were
Well,
just
like the last thing I ever said to my dad, or my dad ever said to me, last conversation was his birthday 2 years before he died. And he said, the kids are coming to take me to birthday dinner. I really don't need you to be here when they're here because I just want it to be the family.
oh god.
And uh, I appreciate what you gave me, but after today, I was wondering, like, could you just leave and don't come back? I can't look at you. My mother had just passed like 3 months before. He said, I can't look at you. You look too much like your mom, and I can't be around you anymore. And I didn't see him for 2 years. And the last time I heard his voice was Christmas Eve, and I was at my sister's house for a party, and he was on the speakerphone talking to the grandkids. And my husband and I and our kids were at the house, and she said, "Well, do you want to say Merry Christmas to Robin or the boys or anything?" And he said, "No, I don't want to talk to her." And I said, "Well, that's okay, Dad. I didn't want to talk to you either." And he said, "Am I on speakerphone?" And Melissa said, "Yes." And he said, "Get me the hell off this thing." And he said something to her and then he hung up. 12 days later, he was dead. But actually, I wanted to say that what came out was, "Well, I love you anyway, Dad." And that's me. That's something, and I get called weak about that a lot. There's so many things that I want to say to people, and I can go through it in my head, but you know how you can think so much faster than you can talk?
Sure.
And I very quickly think, if that was said to me, how bad would that crack my heart? And if it's pretty damn deep, I don't say it. So it's like what I'm thinking is, well, I didn't want to speak to you either, but what came out and what I knew would make him feel even worse was, "Well, I love you anyway, Dad. You have a Merry Christmas."
I do not
So,
have that level of love because, like, I don't have a relationship with my biological father. I know who he is. And I keep tabs on him to a degree through Facebook because I'm friends with some of his family members and, some of my family members that are not in my life.
yeah.
And, and he rejected me from birth. His mom convinced him, we're going to make up this story of all these men having sex with her, my mother, to where the courts won't believe that you're the father and you won't have to pay child support. And this was before DNA testing was like widely available. And so they
Mhm.
literally paid 10 of my biological father's friends to go to court and say they slept with my mom, even though my mom had never been with anybody else. My
Oh my
mom was 13 and he was
God.
21 when they met, which is criminal, obviously. And so I was born not wanted, and it really messed with me. And to this day, like, I would like to believe that I don't have any feelings for him one way or the other. I try to be very apathetic. But I wonder
Mhm.
when he passes, it's inevitable. He's going to pass. He's a drug addict still. He almost died last year from overdosing on meth that was
Meth
laced. I don't
with fentanyl.
Yeah, I don't know if he meant to do the fentanyl or not. I don't, like I said, I don't
No,
speak to him. I hear about him from
no.
from people, but his girlfriend died. They didn't bring her back. They brought him back with Narcan. So it's a matter of time, and I wonder how I'm going to feel because he's always rejected me since birth, and it drove me. The reason why I am such an overachiever, it comes from a dark place. It comes from
Yep.
this little girl of thinking, well, maybe if I do something cool enough or
Don't.
big enough or impactful enough or whatever, he will want to get to know me. He'll want to be in my life. And I did not let go of that until I was 30 years old. And so I was very obsessed with achievement, and I still am because it's a
Yep.
habit now. It's hard to let
Mhm.
go of that. But when that happens, I actually like I like became so lazy for a couple of years. I was like, I'm never going to achieve anything else again because I have no reason to, because I realized that I didn't need his approval. It meant nothing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I wonder how I'm going to feel when he passes. Like, because I feel like we mourn a lot of times what could have been more than what actually was.
Hmm.
And I'm afraid I'm going to be emotional, even though I don't want to be when that day
One
comes.
of the things that I am very glad that I did, and I was able to do it face to face, but it's because like I had been working very many years. Like the first time that I had to tell my parents no to something, if you're not going to respect me that way, then I won't be coming.
Mm.
I was so scared the first time that I was employing psychological tools to be a more effective communicator to abusers. And I was like, I'm not going to come, and I'm not going to do that. And my voice was shaking, but over the years, it got easier and easier. So I was able for me to do it to my mother's face. But he said, if you can't, write her a letter, and you need to just purge it out of you.
Mm-hmm.
When you did this, it made me feel that. Because I felt that, I do this. Because I want more, I employ that good behavior, because I want to grow past the dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could thank you for anything, it would be making me hyper aware of being a less dysfunctional person to the people in my life. You need to, and he says, don't write the letter until you are truly ready for forgiveness. But he also taught me that forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook. He said,
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness is when you think about those situations, they don't sear and burn your heart and soul with all the pain. That, you know what, I'm getting a little tougher and a little tougher. And like you said, I came to a realization I don't have to please him. There was something released in that. There was a
For
freedom and
sure.
a weight lifted off. You found forgiveness for him in that area of your life. That's
Mhm.
what you experienced, was forgiveness. And
Well, and I
that
think I
weight
forgave myself too. I think I
you
forgave myself
should.
because I felt like I had to prove myself to gain his affection. And of course,
Yes.
that's impossible to do. I have a joke. How many degrees does it take for your dad to love you? Well, it's not four. Um, like that's just the sad
Like,
truth. But I did forgive him. And then after that, I was a little bit lost because I had been
where'd I
doing
put all that anger?
right. And anger, to circle back to what we were talking early in the conversation, anger doesn't do anything to the other person. It only hurts you. Anger is a poison that you are allowing to fester in your body. You have to get rid of it. Get it out. If that means go punch a bag, if that means go run it out, like you have to figure out an outlet to get rid of the anger because it
Write it
will
down
kill
and burn
you.
it. Yeah, write it down and burn it. Give it, to as a symbol to like to click in your brain. That went away.
I'm letting
I'm
go
allowed
of
to let
this.
that go.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And I did
because
some stuff.
displaced anger is dangerous
What's that?
to your health.
Oh yeah,
Displaced
it's
anger, yeah,
yeah.
it's so dangerous to your health, to your relationships. You're going to wind up taking anger out on people. That was why I couldn't keep relationships.
Yep.
I learned that I had displaced anger. I was taking, maybe I was walking out of the house and my mother did something that kept me in such a place that I went and took it all out on an innocent human being who had none of it coming. And then that person was like, I just can't take being punished like this for no reason anymore. And they'd walk away from the relationship with me. I learned that that was displaced anger. I needed to like stop myself on those steps and say, this is a her problem. She's projecting onto me. None of the stuff she's saying about me is true. I can let this go and go enjoy my night. Let her simper in her irk. Let her, think whatever she wants. I'm not a whore. I'm not going out to sleep with anybody. I'm not a loser. I've got 2 degrees. I'm not Tamara good. I'm halfway there, but I did that. I did the double degree to make her happy. I became a cheerleader because that's all that mattered in her life. And I thought she'd love me. And, I did all that. You can't make somebody who's not capable of loving anyone love you. And that's not a you problem. That
Yes.
is a they failure.
Well, and
So you're
funny
not
that you
responsible.
say that because he has other kids that he went on to have, and he abandoned them as well. So it's not even personal to me. He abandoned all of his kids. I have half siblings that I'm friends with on Facebook. You know, I don't necessarily like know them, but I know who they
Yeah.
are. And he abandoned
Yeah.
them as well. And it's not even personal to me. And some people don't have that maternal instinct or that paternal instinct. Some people genuinely don't want kids and they have them anyway, and then they're miserable and they make the kids miserable too. And so
Yeah,
being
that
able
was
to,
absolute mom. Yeah, and she told me that once, like just what you're saying. I wasn't the only kid my mom abused. By far, every child got the same amount of abuse, but in very different areas, if that matter. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get abused the same across the board. She picked and chose and cultivated the abuse very individually to make each child feel as small as possible, and so it was all across the board like that. It's exactly what you're talking about. So, and if you look at it, that's why I never really saw it as like I got worse than the other kids. I just got mine.
you just got different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it
Yeah.
makes you wonder because, we both are evolved enough to know that hurt people. So your mom probably was abused and some things happened to
Oh,
her.
very
My
much.
biological father, the same is probably true. I don't have any idea about how he grew up, but I can only imagine that there was something because the way that he is with relationships isn't normal. So something disrupted his ability to have like real connections with people. And um again, there's always something behind the scenes that drives people's behavior, like, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to do the work to actively integrate the trauma and deal with it in a way. It's like I love the baggage, analogy. Like I used to carry around like 5 suitcases full of
Yep.
trauma, and now I'm down to like a carry-on,
I'm
and
so
I,
proud
I've
of you.
still got baggage, but I occasionally I open up the suitcase, I unpack it, I let some go, I repackage the stuff I'm not willing to let
Yeah.
go of yet, and I
Because
put
we
it
need our
back in the
pals.
suitcase. One day I'm hoping to like,
Neurodivergents, we need our pals.
yes, yes, yes. And one day I'm hoping to go from, a carry-on to maybe like a fanny pack, right? Like keep smaller and smaller packages. And of course, there's always new trauma that we collect that we didn't even realize. Like, how did this get in a suitcase? I didn't even know I had new trauma, but we're always experiencing new
You
trauma.
always, yeah, you always will. So, like, if, yeah, to circle back, a letter or a conversation, I'm so glad that I did have that with my mother. And we really did like talk it out. And she did apologize, like, actually apologize. And she told me, like, she said, I just don't know, Robin. Like, everybody always said that, oh, you don't feel it now, but the moment that baby comes in this earth and you hold that baby and that baby looks into your eyes, you're just going to feel it and you're going to be a mommy and you're just going to know. And she said, not with any of y'all. I never got that feeling.
Mm,
I never felt any of that for any of you. She's like, and I know that makes me sound like a bad person, but I never wanted to be a mother.
mm,
I was just supposed to be a mother.
yep.
And she literally said that to me. And I think that's why when she did pass, it was like it wasn't good. It was, oh, that's sad,
Yeah. Like reading
but
an article
I felt
about,
free. Yeah, I
yeah.
felt free. Like, okay, I can bury her, but I'm in such a good place about it. Okay, I'm not crying like Melissa is. They had a whole different relationship. So I'm not beside myself like I was with my Mama Callie.
Mhm,
None of my other siblings were crying like for Mama Callie like I was, but we had this whole other relationship.
mhm.
And so, it was the dynamic, but I was able to lay her to rest with respect and no hard feelings and no anger. And I'm so blessed because my husband did not. I kept telling him, you need to have this conversation, whether you need to write her a letter, you need to do something, whether he apologizes or not, whether he acknowledges or not, you got it out of you and he heard it. And that's
Well,
why
the
some people
problem
better to
is,
send a letter some people it's better just send a letter, because if you're expecting to get this big healing moving moment, there's a lot of chance, especially with narcissistic sociopaths, you're not going to get it. However, whether you can see it on their face or not, you just stuck a knife all up in them. I mean,
I
I'm
don't want to
telling
hurt
you,
him though.
face, this is
That's
what
not.
you did to me.
I'm not trying to hurt anybody either. So
No, no,
don't
no,
don't
no.
don't
What I'm
get it
saying,
twisted.
no, 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 it's not that. I'm just saying there are some people who it's like, you, well, I wouldn't do it because I want to hurt them. Well, it is going to hurt them in that way. But what it is self-realization is hard. He might be in a place where he needs you to acknowledge, and for all you know, you don't know, like,
No, he's a drug addict, Robin. He is
right.
actively on drugs. If he were to ever get sober, I would love to try to have a relationship with him. He has been smoking crack or meth for over 40 years. He does not, he lives in a garage. He does not have the capacity to have an authentic conversation. And I already made peace with it. I forgive him. I don't harbor anything.
That's what
And
you write to him. That's what you write to him. I understand your struggle. I understand where you've been. I have studied it. I've researched it. I get what you're coming from, and I forgive you for it, Daddy. I'm sorry you've had to struggle all these years with, but I'm sorry I had to struggle too. I'm sorry we both had to struggle through it.
I don't have any reason. I
And
personally don't have any reason to do that. I don't plan to. I don't feel like there's a desire because I did go and have a conversation with him one on one when I was 30 years old. And that
okay,
that was the moment that I was able to let go. I had a face-to-face
you
discussion and I realized I didn't need his approval. He's
you
just
did
a
it. You
human.
did have the conversation. Good for
I
you.
did. Yeah, no, I did. So at this point, I there's nothing else for me to do other than
Oh yeah, you've
you
done
know,
it. You've done the work. That's
yeah.
the hard job of all of it, is to have that conversation. So, and that's exactly, you got that experience. You got that weight lift. You
Yeah.
will get that weight lift. Yeah, I'm not saying go do this and do that. It's like, it's just for people who might be listening.
Mhm.
We both did that very hard work. It's
It
terrifying
was
to
like
go
a
have that
weightlifting.
conversation,
I mean,
but
it
it
was
is like,
it was
yes,
phenomenal, but that again, because I had been driven by this for my whole life, I was lost for a couple of years trying to figure out, well, what do I do now? Because I've let go of this need to constantly strive for more and perfection and degrees and certifications and whatnot. Look what I can do. Look what I can do. Like that whole
do you
thing.
love me now? Do you love me now?
Right.
Do
So then
you,
I just
do you
kind of like
approve?
I was kind of chill for a couple of years. But then eventually I got some more goals and I figured out what I wanted to, where I wanted to continue growing,
Yeah,
what areas, but it was freeing. It really was. And that's the thing. People have these emotions because of their experiences. As long as you're
exactly.
doing work to address them and integrate them and growing day by day, that's all anyone can really strive for. And that's all
Yes.
I can expect of my fellow human.
And every day, even if you get just the tiniest bit forward, celebrate yourself. You got forward. You
Yes.
know, heck, there are some days, did you stay right where you are? Pat yourself on the back. You didn't fall backwards. Pat yourself on the back because you hung on right there. And some days that's all you can do. Like when we
Yeah.
lost Jake, there were just days where it's just like, you know what? I hung on. I started smoking. I smoked for about 9 months after Jake died. I had not smoked since I'd gotten pregnant like 22 years earlier. My body had changed. I just couldn't smoke. It was gross. I mean, I smoked from 14 to 24. And then, like, the day I got pregnant, I tried to smoke and just threw up everywhere. I was like, yeah, I can't even smell it. And it just kind of stayed that way. But I started smoking when Jake passed. And I do remember standing outside of the comedy club and I said something about smoking. And they were like, you don't smoke, Robin. And I said, you know what? I'm not standing here with a drink in my hand like my mother. I'm not standing here with a handful of drugs in my hand like my dad. I'm smoking. I think I'm doing pretty darn good. And I said, and I won't be smoking within a year from now. I do. And I wasn't. In 9 months, I wasn't smoking any. I just needed, the stress was so high, you know, what my other son was going through, just it impacted families. so deeply.
Well, and
And
it's okay to have a vice periodically. The problem is we let the vices take over our lives. Like
yes,
when you like with Daryl, my biological father, you go off the deep end with the drugs and you let the drugs rule your life and become first. And that's maybe why he can't love his kids because he's been in love with the drugs. Like, you know what I mean? That's why he never had
yeah,
a relationship last because he was putting the drugs first and your mom alcohol, everybody has their vice, but if you know that somebody is an addict, you can't really expect them to care about anybody else. And if you do, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's really hard
you
to
are.
get in any kind of relationship with an addict.
I have always said that to me, addiction lobotomizes your conscience and
Mm.
that part of your brain. It's almost like it cuts it completely out. There's no conscience, there's no sense of fear,
Mm-hmm.
there's no sense of right and wrong. It literally makes you a psychopath. Like the only thing you can think about is that drug and what does it take to get more of that drug? What am I going to do to get more drug? Who do I got to hurt to get more drug? I don't care, you
Yeah.
know? So that's not you. Please don't ever blame yourself. Oh, and a favorite thing addicts love to say is, well, I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you. Well, you make me do
You
this.
make me
You
crazy,
make,
so I have to medicate.
yeah. So I have to, that is BS.
Right.
That's called projection. It is a lie. Just know in that moment what they're saying is, being in your strength makes me feel really weak right now. So I'm trying to pull you down to my level so I don't have to feel as ashamed of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just know that when he's saying that stuff, she's saying that stuff, they're saying that stuff, they're they're projecting. They're saying all the things they're ashamed of themselves and trying to get you to buy it because they can pull you down to their level. They're less awful. And again, it's not your person in there anymore. Addiction, that's not your person. The
Mm-hmm.
person you knew before addiction is not in that brain anymore. And it's, I tell them, I say, give them a meal, give them a sweater, show them a church to go to. Do not ever give them money or your address, ever.
Yeah.
Because, well, give them money, you might as well throw somebody who can't swim off the dock and say, I just want to see if he makes it. He's going to spend the money on the drugs, or they are going to spend the money on the drugs. They're never going to get the food with it. They're never going to go get a room with it. They're never going to, go get them a room. If that's what you want to shell out, go get them a room. They'll go to
Mm-hmm.
the room. Take them a coat. They'll wear the coat. Bring them a meal. They'll eat the meal. Give them the money. They could be dead
Mm-hmm.
within 20 minutes because you don't know what you're getting on the streets anymore. It's all fentanyl.
Oh,
You know,
it's
you can
scary. It is
you can
terrifying to
buy the
think about
pill
it.
presses on Amazon that you can make them look exactly like Eli Lilly, Big Pharma. They look exactly, so it looks exactly like a Xanax. It looks exactly like a Lortab, exactly like a Vicodin. You cannot tell the difference. It's got the same stamp number. But it is pure fentanyl. You are
Mm.
literally playing Russian. They're lacing pot with it now. You are playing Russian roulette with your life every single time you go buy Adderall. It looks like Adderall. That's 180 degrees different than what fentanyl is. Adderall is a stimulant. Fentanyl is 100 times stronger than heroin. 100 times stronger. So yeah, it's Russian roulette out there these days, and it's
Terrifying.
terrifying. And you know, but just know that that's not your person, and it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You are not responsible for other people's choices, even if they try to tell you that they are.
Yeah.
You're only responsible for yourself and how you allow other people to treat you. So do not train people to treat you like dirt.
Yes.
Train people to treat you like the respect deserving Homo sapien that you are.
I love
However
that.
you choose to be, however you choose to live, the Homo sapien that you are, I choose to live in respect, and I choose not to be abused. And I choose to take harder looks at myself, because when I do, I'm not putting myself down. I'm realizing, where did this bad behavior or these bad decisions come from?
Yeah.
Oh, from there. So when I see this happening, I stay very aware not to take this action. I take a more positive action and I get to put it behind me and I grow and I'm less stressed and less angry and more forgiving and a fuller, rounder human being with a lot more happiness than you had before you employed the tools. Jump off the cliff, pull the parachute, it's gonna open.
Yes, taking a look at yourself is so brave and scary, which to button it up with what we talked about early, that's why people hop from relationship to relationship because they don't feel comfortable even being alone with their thoughts for
Mm,
even a couple of hours at a time. And I used to be that way early on, like in my early 20s. And so I would treat my house like a locker room and I would just shower there and sleep. And then any other time I was with people so that I could avoid myself and my thoughts and my feelings. And so to do the brave thing, look at yourself, reflect on your actions, reflect on your feelings, and dig into them. Why are you like this? Understand, because with understanding comes the capacity to then control your behavior a lot better and have the
mhm.
life that you want and live with intention.
Exactly. Oh, yes. I mean, I'm so thankful for therapy, all the sacrifice, everything I had to go through to go. I'm still in therapy, the 30 straight years of therapy, but it progressed. Like, I don't want to have kids until you tell me I should have kids. And when he tells me, yeah, you're ready for kids, I spent that time in therapy. How do I communicate best with my children? What's the most fair way to punish my children? What should I do? He taught me about making contracts with teenagers. That's amazing because it
Mm.
teaches them what a contract is. And they break one of the rules on the contract. There's no fight. It's, hey, you signed it. We sat down at the table, contract. It was amazing. He taught me how I didn't want to be my father. Like, as we got to be teenagers, he kind of became uninvolved because he didn't want to abuse anybody. But then my mother was just verbally, she went back to the slapping and stuff, but that was the alcohol. When she was sober, she's the most awesome human on the earth. And, I didn't want to swing that pendulum. How do I don't have the tools, Dr. Riles, to be a good parent. What should I do about this? Well, every week it's, well, how should I punish him for this? What should I do? How do I talk to my autistic son about this? How do I do that? And it was just lessons. I would go in with questions and take notes, and he would teach me about communication with my children, communication. And I'm so glad I did it because, like, my son once said something to me when he was a teenager, and I could see myself. I literally, all that could come out was, you need to be so thankful to God. You need to go to your room and then get on your knees and thank God that I've been in therapy all these years. Because right now, I would have just jumped across the room at you like a howler monkey and been beating on you like I got rabies. Because that's what my mother would. She would have just taken off across the room, jumped me, and just, and it's just, that was the relationship we had, and I didn't want it with my kids. So my therapy while they was growing up was to be the most responsible, fair parent. What is healthy parenting? I wanted children who wanted to come home for more than Christmas. I
Mhm.
wanted children who felt safe in my home, who felt safe to come home. Like, home's a safe space, and my home is a safe space for them. And I feel like I've never, of everything I've ever accomplished, I'll end my thing with this: my greatest accomplishment in my life. And I'm so proud of this. Sorry, I'm just so proud. I have never hit my child in anger, and I have never said anything hateful or spiteful or put them down, or those things that get said between a parent and a child when they're teenagers that you can't take back. And I'd rather be hit because I don't remember the pain as much as I remember the pain of the words. And I never wanted my children to experience that. And my children never have. It's like my therapist always says, their childhood doesn't have to be your childhood. And
Yeah.
I gave them a different childhood. And I feel like that is a massive win. That's what I'm most proud of all the things, the beating the lupus, all is, it's that I've never harmed my children emotionally or physically out of a moment of wanting to feel temporarily more superior than them. They better know who's mom. I never did that with them. And I'm so proud of that. And that's why I say therapy, y'all. There's so many options for therapy out there for you now. You don't necessarily have to have all the money. There's online therapy for like as much as you're buying CBDs for. So, you can afford it. You already know you can. You buying the CBDs. So go get some therapy and like seriously unpack your pain. Because that person, what do I pay a therapist to talk to? Think about it like this. You paying somebody to tell you deepest, darkest, I don't want nobody to know that too, and they can't tell nobody by law. Courts try to drag them in, and they're like, I can't tell you nothing by law unless you go in and sign a piece of paper saying you go talk about me. They can't say squat. So it's literally better than your priest because you're not only going to get to unload. I do this really sick stuff and I can't stop it. They're not only going to be like, yeah, a lot of people have trouble with that. Here's some tools. You're not only going to be told, well, you're awful, ask for forgiveness. You're going to tell how to fix it. They're going to teach you how to fix it. So I feel the number one thing, those people that God, the universe, whatever you want to believe, I don't judge it. You be you. That entity, those people that come into your life that feel like I had that saving grace, I had to cling to them. They're your spirit family. And therapy is worth every penny because it teaches you that you're not only worthy of love, but how to love yourself, which then allows you to love others because you cannot love other people if you don't know how to even love yourself.
It's an investment. Therapy is an investment in yourself, and you should want to invest in yourself because you are worth it. And with that, Robin, this has been a wonderful conversation. Let's tell
Thank
our
you.
listeners where they can follow you so they can find out more. And, there's a lot of stuff we didn't even cover, but if they want to check you out and, I know you've got some fun video stuff going on. I'm not sure if it's a podcast or what. You've got the travel channel. You've also got some comedy. So let's hear all the different places that people can follow you and some of the projects that you're working on that they might be interested in.
Hey, my comedy partner Joyce Lyles and I, we just sold a television show to the Demi TV app. That's Demetrius Milone. Used to be the one of the top producers at the WB. He just sold one of the shows off of Demi TV to NBC. So we're right in the middle of he's moving out there to LA and all. But it's a 6.4 million share. You can go to the website, demitv.com. If you scroll down, there's a big blue line that says watch Fire Stream TV for free. You push that and register, you can watch mine and Joyce's show without having to pay for the fees and all of that. They're going to start, demitv.com will start building us, they're building us a new website. So I don't have a website at the moment because it's all being rebuilt around the TV channel and stuff like that. But everywhere else on social media, YouTube's, all the little medias that's stealing my banking apps, it's Bobby Sutton. It's comedian Bobby Sutton. And it's not because I think I'm just the greatest comedian. It's because there's like 600 Bobby Suttons out there. So comedian Bobby Sutton or at comedian Bobby Sutton. You can find me on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the YouTubes. I don't have a TikToks and I got kicked off the Twitters. So in 2016. Oh, so yeah, that's a funny story, but for another time. Yeah, just follow me like that. We're very excited about the Demi TV opportunity. We hopefully will be having Tamara on one of the episodes. She was actually discussed with the producers. We feel like she's going to be a really amazingly fun episode about empowering women with finances because this girl know her money.
Ooh, yes, I'm in. That sounds so
this girl
fun.
know her taxes. She know how to do her stuff. So we thought she'd be, because we're really trying to, we're just trying, our channel is about empowering people and helping people have conversations that society has started making really difficult. We let comedians come who are going through it themselves, and we just allow them to speak from the experience. And I say, please, when you go to that site, look up Yoshi So and Moody Malavi episode. It's on immigration. And they were both immigrants as children from countries we were not getting along with when they came here. So it was beautiful stories. It was very educative. And that's kind of what we're pushing, is like educating compassion and knowledge through with laughter and humor and stuff, you know. And this weekend I'll be at the Atlanta Comedy Theater working with the Keenan Thompson VIP experience. So I got some discount tickets available for y'all, little promo codes if y'all want, if you're in the Atlanta area. I'll be heading out to Vegas around November. Just kind of all around doing stuff. You'll see me around Stardome. Any comedians who are watching here and you're interested, get your reels in to Eunice Elliott at stardome.com. She is running the open mic. The Stardome open mic is back open again. Y'all got to get down there. So, yay. So, yeah, I'm just having a good time spreading laughter and love and stuff like that.
Well, I love it, and I'm so grateful for you, Bobby.
And where do they follow you, Tamra?
What's that?
Where does everyone follow you?
Oh, well, I've got as many channels as I do personalities. So I've got my comedy stuff at Tamagram on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And TikTok, although I don't really get on there much. And then I've got Raise Your Own Bar, which is I've got a
That's
Facebook.
a great one. That is such a good one. Y'all gotta like follow that. That's great advice. No, y'all gotta follow that, y'all. That is great advice.
Follow
So,
Raise Your Own Bar on all the things. We've got Instagram, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, we've got YouTube. I don't have a TikTok, but I've also kind of stopped using TikTok, waiting to see what happens with the legislation that they passed. And the security risks make me very uncomfortable, but that's for another
that's
day.
like they're giving them 9 months to divest, and then
Right.
from what I've been able to find, yeah, it's looking like about 9 months to divest, and then so unless they work something out in that 9 months.
Well, I'm curious to see what happens, but as of right now, I'm just not comfortable having the app on my device. But I'm also on Substack, and that's where this podcast episode
Woo!
will be released, and I'll be sharing it with people on all of the channels. So look out for future episodes. And Robin, again, thank you so much for coming on the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. And I hope you have
Thank
a
you
great
for
rest of your
having.
day. You are very welcome.
Thanks. God bless. Angels on y'all.